them back and the brilliantly angled wings. We're starting like we did with the MD-11, but using a single part for the base of the nose as it needs to be very stable to support the upper deck. This front part is pretty simple, but it's very important you have these black parts. The colour doesn't matter, but their size will hold the sides of the slope exactly where it needs to be. The most noticeable difference with this design is the nose cone part. I first tried it out with JAL123 and kind of predicted how LEGO used it on the 747 shuttle carrier set. Unfortunately, the cone part they used doesn't come fully white, so mine is kind of flat at the end. Another improvement is that our windows now have 2 hinge joints to bend at instead of just one, so if you adjust them right, your wider nose will look very rounded and not so angular. These are the sides of the slope and they look pretty good with this design. Just follow it carefully and it ends up replicating the angle super nicely. It will be pretty tall, but that height looks ideal for a 10 stud wide build. As you can see, it attaches to these black snot bricks. Now we're going to build up near the cockpit area. This part is similar to the previous designs but just a bit bigger scale. The usual windscreen part sits on top of 2 of these semicircle plates. We're now building the part where the upper deck widens out to become 10 studs wide, which was difficult for me to work out how to do. But if you copy what I've done here, then it's a sturdy design that sits at an angle and won't move out of place. By the way, I made an annoying mistake here. There should be 1x4 plates under each of the square bricks just to raise it a bit higher. I fix that problem later on. We'll now make a smooth round roof, which fits the builder nicely. And we have completed the XL 747 nose design. Kinda looks like a Dreamlifter again, but that'll be sorted out when our first class upper deck will start coming along. We've got to remove some parts to be able to extend this build, pull away the windows and replace this plate with this, and let's do that for both sides. Now it can just connect a lot more strongly. Let's build the fuselage. We're giving it a bit of a curve by making these bases go down a bit each time. Just remove these for now, as we'll put this space where the door would be, and the hinges can go back on afterwards. The upper deck will now be fully connected by hinges, as opposed to previous designs which just had a few hinges and gaps where there weren't any. Now we can reattach these parts we took off earlier, and let's make progress on the upper deck. And this is the point where I realised that little mistake I made. We'll now be able to connect this part to the section with the windows. The slope will begin about midway through this part, so we will leave space for the roof to be able to slope downwards. At this point, the roof doesn't really connect directly to any bricks, as it will join to a section later on, but for some extra strength you could easily connect it to the flight deck area using some bricks. Now we will begin the satisfying roof slope. This is my first design where the slope is made fully from individual curve and slope pieces, rather than stepping the LEGO roof pieces up like this, because that was not really good looking. And for the front section, that's just about done, so let's do the central fuel tank to hold 10 studs wide again. This will work for all variants of the Boeing 747. Also, I've chosen to make this plane fully white, which is why the central fuel tank is white, just like the one on the DC-10 was. But if you want to do a realistic 747 classic, then it's probably best making the lower areas out of light bluish grey bricks, like I've done in my recent bunch of recreation videos. And I guess the same goes for the DC-10. Flip it over and we're adding these parts stacked together which go here, and place Technic pins over there. Now place a 2x2 brick on top of each Technic pin. It should look like this, and put this part with a plate on it. That'll help connect the nose of the 747 nicely. Strengthen the connection with the second 2x6 plate, which will allow us to begin the most unique feature of this specific 747 design. You can see we begin unusually by using ordinary rectangular plates for the front of the wing instead of the triangular wedges which were used for the DC-10 and every other plane. We'll still use wedges at the back of the wing, as you can see, so we can get the ideal shape. This helps us to get cooler looking swept back wings, which the 4x6 wedge isn't steep enough to achieve. These dark grey plates just represent where you can use any kind of colour, as it is the middle layer of plates, so will get covered up by tiles. I originally didn't completely fill this layer for Pan Am 103 as I wanted the wings to be as light as possible, but if you put plates all throughout the middle layer, it makes the wings stronger. Strength is of course a big problem with these wings, as you will know if you've seen my latest behind the scenes video. This is the top layer where I've tried laying out the tiles in the best looking way. And we can also get smoother wings as we will use cheese slopes at the front to make it look like it could even generate some lift, which it definitely cannot.